Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. The Russians attacked the southern part of Ukraine. The explosions took place in the settlement by the name of Renia. This is the port settlement that located on the south of Odessa. For that purposes, the Russians were using the Kherson drones, and as a result of those attacks, some ammo depots, fuel depots, and other military infrastructure and facilities were damaged or destroyed. Another explosions took place in the vicinity of Kryvyi Rog, to be more precise, in the vicinity of military airfield. The Russian sources reported that as a result of that strike there was a very heavy fire in the vicinity of the aircraft field, and as a result of that attack the Ukrainians lost a significant number of Western weapons, missiles, rockets, and so on. But we yet haven't received any video or photo confirmations of the results of those strikes. Probably the Ministry of Defense will give us more updates and details regarding that attack. Very interesting updates are coming from Kherson direction. At least from some sources are saying that during the previous night the Ukrainians launched assault operation between the islands in this area along the Dnipro river, and the main direction of Ukrainian attack were the islands between Gola Pristin and Oleshki. The Russian sources reported that Ukrainians for those purposes were using up from 2 to 3 battalion tactical groups. Very interesting situation, and this is another attempt from the Ukrainian side to establish the bridgehead on the Russian side of the Dnipro. But when talking about this area, I believe that Ukrainians currently try to force the Russians to step back from the settlement Bilogrudovo that located on the Bilogrudovsky Islands along the Dnipro river. Furthermore, the Russians continue bombing and shelling the concentration of Ukrainian forces in the vicinity of Lvova, in the vicinity of Kazatsky, Berislav, the settlements that located on the top from the Kazachie Lagery, the area where the Ukrainians managed to establish their foothold during the attempt to attack that took place 2 or 3 weeks ago. Today we got a very interesting photo from the Khovka reservoir. As you can see, this area is completely filled with grass, and I believe that the next year both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, will try to maintain these positions, this gray zone, to get as close as possible to positions of each other. Now we're moving to Orechov area, to Bradley Square. This night we haven't received almost nothing, no update, just the geolocated video on how the Ukrainians were using their helicopters to support their forces who were attacking to the south in direction of Robotyne and Novoprokopovka. As you can see, the Ukrainians do have possibilities to use their helicopters, and as you can see, they're pretty successful and pretty effective. When talking about Rimivka tactical bridgehead, we haven't received almost nothing, just a small attack against the Russian light vehicle support car that Ukrainians managed to discover in Staromarlinovka, and as a result of FPV drone attack, that support car was destroyed. More interesting updates are coming from the settlement by the name of Zelenopolye. This video was published by the Russian side. The Russians discovered the Ukrainian positions, and as a result of artillery strike, that area was pretty damaged, and probably the Ukrainians had some losses. And this is not the first video from this territory. During the previous 2 days we got at least 2 geolocated videos from this direction. The first one took place a little bit to the north. The Russians discovered the Ukrainian hangar with tanks, with different types of armored vehicles, and as a result of artillery strike, that hangar barrack was armored vehicle was destroyed. Today we got almost the same video from the south. The Russians discovered Ukrainian positions and destroyed. So probably the Russians discovered the concentration of Ukrainian forces in this area, which means that during the next 2 days, very likely the Ukrainians will try to make another attempt to attack in direction of Piryutine, and to try to shorten, to maintain the combat line between Piryutine and Urozhaina Staromayorskaya. And now we move further. Today we got some updates from Marinka. The Russian sources published the video of their tank attack along the streets. The Ukrainians have already left the settlement. There are no more Ukrainians in Marinka. They have just temporary positions that they are able to take control over and over every single day. Probably there are some reconnaissance teams I don't think that the Russians will continue attack in direction of Georgievka because of one thing, that there is no place to hide, and to support offensive operation in direction of Georgievka you need to bypass a lot of, like we can say, open air space, and you will be damaged heavily. So basically the only thing the Russians are doing right now is not allow the Ukrainians to accumulate and concentrate their forces in the western part of Marinka. Now we are moving further, and we are going to Bakhmut Klishchiivka direction. Today we got also a lot of interesting updates. We got probably fourth day in a row we continue receiving the geolocated confirmation of Ukrainian controls along the railways between Kurdyumovka and Andreevka. In this video we see how the Ukrainian soldier of 3rd Assault Brigade was trying to repel the Russian attack, the Russian counter-attack in this direction. So we are just using this video to confirm that the Ukrainians are still there and they still control the positions, ex-Russian positions along the railways. Probably within the next 2 days they will try to attack and restore their offensive operation in direction of Andreevka, at least from 3 sides: from the north, and from the west, and from the south. And this is like currently their main purpose. Also, the Ukrainians continue attacking, bombing and shelling the Russian positions, the Russian reserves, the Russian reinforcements, the Russian hidden positions, ammo depots, and so on. In this video we see how the Ukrainians were using cluster rounds just to work out another probable possible position of the Russian forces. On a video in the vicinity of Odradovka, we can see how the Russians were trying to hide their tank somewhere between the settlements and buildings, but the Ukrainians discovered, and as a result of attack, artillery strike, that barrack with tank and ammo depot probably was destroyed. From the other side, the Russians continue storming, pushing and bombing the hill 205.7. This is currently their main goal to force the Ukrainians to step back from the western part of Klishchiivka, while the Ukrainians are trying to attack the Russians in the vicinity of Andreevka. So we'll see who is going to be faster. Now we are moving to Kupiansk Liman front line. Today we got more details and more updates from the Karamzinovka bridgehead. Other Russian sources confirmed that during the previous day there was some kind of progress and success from the Russian side. They managed to maintain the combat line, to maintain the gray zone, and to get as close as possible from the east in direction of Novoyegorovka. The Ukrainians published another video how they bombed and destroyed the Russian tank somewhere between the forest lines using the grenades, and as a result of another successful strike, successful bombing with FPV drone, another Russian tank was destroyed in this area. Very stupid loss, to tell the truth, very stupid loss. Anyway, based on the geolocations we have, currently the Ukrainian main positions are located in Novoyegorovka and few forest lines that located on the south of the settlement. The Russians from their side are trying to develop their offensive operation a little bit to the south and to capture the forest that located on the south of the settlement, and basically the Russians are planning and trying to encircle the settlement, at least from 2 sides, from the north and from the south, and after that to start the final storm of this foothold, and they will be able after that to proceed further in direction of Chernechina and Novosergeyevka. Also, the Ukrainians published the video how they managed to discover and to destroy another Russian tall flamethrower system, Solntsepek, with FPV drone. So based on the geolocations that we got yesterday and today, we see that the Russians are using significant number of armored vehicles, artillery systems, tall flamethrower systems, all types of weapon. This is a very powerful fist, and we understand that their goal and their purpose is to penetrate the Ukrainian defense belt and to get the line of the strict attack in direction of Barova, the settlement that located on Oskol river. When talking about Kupiansk, during the previous night at the local time, we haven't received almost nothing. Just interesting update regarding 67th Mechanized Brigade. The Ukrainian sources reported that as a result of very fierce clashes, the Ukrainians took a decision to redeploy the 67th Brigade from the combat line in direction of Kharkiv for fulfilling and for regrouping because of heavy damage, and that this brigade have already lost its combat capabilities. This is the 67th Brigade, and probably within the next few days we are going to see this brigade somewhere in the vicinity of Chuguyev. For now we will move this, but there are still we need more confirmations of that. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.